And that's really powerful. I've found it really transformational to go through that kind of change and to build the kind of self-confidence that comes from being yourself 99.9% of the time. That's really powerful. I have spent the last 4 years 99% plus sober. The other day I made a video. I recorded this whole video about sobriety, about being sober curious, and I realized that I need to take a step back and share my story with you guys of why do I even care to talk about this, what has been my experience, and what has happened to me as a result of being sober curious, of spending so much time in the last 4 years, quite significant years of my life, being completely sober. And what that means is just being myself, being unadulterated, is that what the word is? A completely true version of me that has not been altered due to some substance. And that means, yes, I've had a drink every once in a while, gone on vacation and indulged, and I think that those were honestly perfectly fine in parts of the whole journey. Now, to take a step back, this all began in October of 2018. I was and still am an avid listener of the Joe Rogan Experience. And if you know Joe Rogan, you know that he does something called Sober October. When I was listening, I felt super inspired by it. They always talk about how they lose a bunch of weight and they get super fit. I didn't really do it for the losing weight aspect. I just thought it was interesting to see what could happen going from a partying like 4 nights a week senior in college to spending 30 days or 31 days of October completely sober. And of course my friends literally all thought that I was insane. They were like, why would you do that? That's not gonna be any fun. So it was kind of the perfect diving headfirst into what it's like to be sober. Not only sober, but in the context of college, it's our senior year, we're going out like 4 nights a week, Tuesday night, Thursday night, Fridays, like it's a lot, right? Everyone's drinking, everyone's hammered, we're having a good time because it's our senior year, you know the drill. So I figured this would be the perfect time to start. And of course, I'm so glad that I did it in that time, because what I learned, number one, the lesson was that I could have fun without this substance. And that was probably the number one lesson that I needed to learn, because by experiencing life in that way and by having the most peer pressure possible, being around party settings, frats, bars, all the things, I saw that it was possible, that I could go out, be my silly self, dance, have fun, all the things, and just be me. And I thought that that was really cool. To fast forward a bit and give you the whole context of the timeline, it started with Sober October in college, as I just told you about, October of 2018. Then I went really right back to drinking heavily. I was a huge IPA gal, just did all the things, going to bottomless brunch on, bottomless mimosa brunch on the weekends in LA. But then for each following year after 2018, I would do Sober October, but I kept adding on a month. So in 2019, I did 2 full months in the fall. In 2020, I did 3 months. In 2021, I again think I repeated it, but just spent more bursts of the year completely sober. 2022, last year, was by far, I think, the most time I had spent sober, and now it's 2023, February 23rd, and I have not had anything to drink this year. I think I'm on 3-ish months so far. So as you can see, basically I had a little taste of what it would be like to do a sober month, and I just kept extending it, really just as a personal challenge. Back to the college days, I think as most people can relate to this experience, we're pretty conditioned to think that having fun equals being fucked up, equals being drunk, equals having drinks, smoking, whatever. Basically, that's the story, is that if you're gonna have a good time, if you're gonna make the most of it, you're gonna be drinking, you're gonna be hammered in some form. And that kind of truth is pretty devastating to buy into, because it creates this relationship where who we are by default, our true self, is not really enough to enjoy life. And that is something that has been the most transformative thing for me to experience, is to go from thinking I needed something outside of myself to enjoy life, to realizing that I have everything I need within me to enjoy life. So the context of this video is that I want to tell that story and just express what I have experienced. Number one, just so I can give you sort of where I'm coming from. In the next video, I'm going to talk more broadly about being sober curious and the potential it could have for you, but right now I figured let me just tell my own story, and if you resonate with it, great. So basically over the next few years I just gravitated very away from alcohol as I gravitated more toward my inner self. I went on more of a spiritual journey. In 2021 I started spending a lot of time alone, really just because my living situation had changed and my boyfriend moved out of the state, and so we were doing long distance. My brother left our apartment. I was just spending a lot of time alone. So I'd go to the beach, I started reading more and journaling. I got into manifestation at the time, and I started to open up a whole new world. I had never really been into anything spiritual. I grew up actually being pretty much atheist and really just not into any form of religion. I felt like it was so dogmatic, and I just did not like the idea of having to go to a place like a church and pray and all the things. So I started to define my own version of spirituality, and through that I came home. I literally just learned a new world. It was literally like I lit up a new palette on life. And so as I learned more about myself and I followed a spiritual path, I ended up quitting my job last year. I basically just went more toward what my own path is, what my own self is. I was trying to find my essential true self, and in that process I just found way less need for drinking. It just really doesn't resonate with me anymore. I don't even think about it unless someone is peer pressuring me to have a drink. Every once in a while I can see how having wine or whatever might be nice, but seriously for the most time I just don't think about it. And it's because I've just sort of shifted my perspective on life and what brings me joy. A couple other factors that have helped me to spend most of the time sober is, number one, I'm a very silly person. I like to have fun. I'm very adventurous. I've always been interested in traveling and going places, so I've just developed a deep love for life outside of alcohol, and I think that helps a lot because to me it's not boring to not drink. It's just default mode, and there's a million other more interesting things that I could go do with my time. And really developing that love for life outside of alcohol has created a really cool positive loop where I keep gaining more experiences that are so deeply fulfilling that I just keep adding more reasons to stay on that path. Another reason is actually because of health. My hormones have been wacky for a long time because of another whole side story on the birth control pill, but basically I've been trying to get my hormones back in balance, and because of that, drinking just doesn't fit into the picture because from a health perspective, it's kind of a no-brainer. If you prioritize health, if you care about your health, you're probably not going to make a lot of room for alcohol in your life if you know anything about the effects it has on your body. The other thing is that, like I said at the beginning of this journey, I was spending a lot of time alone, and now I've grown to really love spending time alone. I just view it as spending time with myself, with the universe, with nature, with whatever this whole existence is. I just love to ponder things, and I don't mind being alone. Basically for me, I'm willing to choose time alone over a social situation that's not actually aligned, right? I don't necessarily sacrifice. I don't choose social scenarios because I feel like I should go or it would be good to be with this group over myself. I'm very good at prioritizing what is right for me, and because of that I think it's a lot easier to say no to drinking. The other thing is that I have grown to love ritualistic beverages, so tea, matcha, cacao. These are things that bring me a lot of joy in preparing them and enjoying them. I know that they're healthy for me. They have so many benefits for my mind, body, and my soul, and it's now really just an effortless replacement. I don't even view it as a replacement. I just view it as like, this is just what I drink and what I enjoy, and those things really bring me so much happiness. The other weekend I had a tea ceremony with my boyfriend where we sat there for like 40 minutes just drinking tea, and I tell you, it was literally one of the happiest moments of my life because it was just so pure. So presence in drinking something that is so delicious and good for me really makes me happy. And of course, having a different kind of social life, that helps. I'm not really going out to bars much anymore. My friend group has changed a bit in the last few years. A lot of my closest friends are actually, we are kind of connecting virtually, and that makes it easier because I'm not, going out every weekend. I'm just doing different tasks. I travel a lot, we go out to dinner, we go exploring, and that definitely makes it easier. And the last thing is, I will say I have pretty good self-control. I don't think I've ever really had a addictive personality. Maybe I can be like a bit obsessive in other ways, but I have a lot of self-control, and I find it pretty, I would say the first month in being sober, anyone who's gone from drinking a lot to now all of a sudden not drinking, that's probably the hardest thing, but after a while, when you prove it to yourself, it gets a lot easier. I have yet to try something like a 30 days with no sugar. That would probably be my next frontier, my next challenge, to see if I can do that level of self-control. But yeah, overall, I'm pretty good at being disciplined, and if I decide I want to do something and stick to it, pretty okay at it. What I have come to realize lately is that I just thoroughly enjoy who I am, and that is a sentence that I think a lot of people have a hard time saying out loud and to really believe. I empathize with that a lot because I think a lot of us have grown up not feeling like we can't socialize, or we're too socially awkward, or we just can't like be who we want to be unless we're drinking or high or whatever it is. And it's hard. Like I went through the scenarios of being socially awkward, of going to a party and overthinking it because I was the only one sober or whatever it was. And so I know that it can be tough, and I basically, in retrospect, who I am today is that I'm just very grateful to have gone through all those scenarios and to have pushed myself to stick to something that, you know, deep down, I think on a soul level is what I wanted. And I listen to my higher self and try to do things that the future me would be thankful for. And ultimately, who I am today, I think is a big byproduct of the fact that I have allowed myself to be simply who I am in as many contexts as possible. And that I've pushed myself to dance, to shuffle, to have fun, to be silly, to crack jokes, to do whatever the fuck I want to do in social scenarios, in whatever scenario it is, without the help of booze or whatever it is. And that's really powerful. I found it really transformational to go through that kind of change and to build the kind of self-confidence that comes from being yourself 99.9% of the time. That's really powerful. And the reason why I share about it, and the reason why I'm going to do a part 2 on this, talking more about the health of it and the impacts of being sober curious in a broader perspective, not just my own, is because I think can be really rewarding to go through that challenge. And really, quite simply, we're just taking out the numbing effect of life. It's this whole trip around the fucking universe is crazy, and I think it's really easy to numb it, and I get that. I understand that, and I think it's really powerful to choose a different route and to choose something that could be harder in the short term but really beneficial in the long run. And yeah, that's just how I felt. I think that not drinking has added like a new color palette to my life. It's like I've received a software upgrade of like 47 new palettes or new color tones that I get to look at life through. And I don't know if I would have achieved that in a different way. And so yeah, the journey of being sober curious has really just been something about being rooted in myself and being confident enough to follow my own voice and to forge my own path despite the peer pressure, despite whatever societal conventions that we all buy into. I'm looking at birds because I'm obsessed with birds. And quick side note, on my birthday, which was in early January, I did like a whole meditation and, you know, tried to connect to my higher self and all that. And a big image was like birds, and birds being like a magical sign for the year. So I love birds, and I happen to live like right here near the water, so there's a lot of birds, but I still think it's magical. So anyway, yeah, I think the journey of sobriety just has a lot of unexpected gifts for us, and it's totally up to the individual person. Like, we're all on different life paths, and I really have a lot of respect for how everyone goes about their path and the different timelines that we're on, and you just gotta do you. But yeah, so maybe my story, maybe my perspective inspires you in some way to do something that has been on your mind, that has been on your heart for a while. And it takes courage, I think, to choose something different than what you normally do. And the good news is that when we do something different, when we do something that's out of our normal practice, that literally changes us on a cellular level. What we know about neuroplasticity is we can fire new connections in our brain, and we can change our personality, we can change our personal reality through the changes that we make. And for me, I think drinking became just a habit and something that was just default. Like, if you're gonna have fun in life, if you want to enjoy life or live a little, then you drink. And I just didn't want to buy into that anymore, and I think life feels a lot more adventurous, both physically and mentally, being sober. Life is a trip in and of itself, and to me, I just don't need anything additional to make it so. So yeah, that's kind of my quick personal story on being sober curious, and I'd love to hear your story. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your perspective, anything that you've been through, and let me know in the comments. And I will be doing a part 2 of this video, so stay tuned for that. And if you enjoyed this, share it with a friend, like the video, and subscribe.